Hey YouTube, this is Shack Central, and I'm back. I wanted to give you a brief update on ColdDoT in patch 3.15, and kind of explain where I've been, what I've been working on, give you the latest path of buildings with maybe a couple league-specific observations, and finally give you details on a couple of exciting things that are coming up. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. And I want to start by showing you where I'm at right now. I ended up starting in Trade League, which is something I'll actually get into at the end of the video. But it's been incredibly successful. It's pretty obvious when you have a program like Path of Building that you can kind of see how it's going to look in a new league, and it looked really good. So I've been playing this. This is where I'm at. I just picked up my 6-link shavs. I was working on a 5-link all the way up into about 18 watchstones, and it worked great. We got the Prism Guardian. We pretty much got the whole setup here. Just hit level 91, and it's been incredibly good. It has gone through a few iterations, but it's been very strong. So let me just start by saying, before the 3.15 patch notes, kind of where I've been, I was working on a very large project, which is basically a comprehensive new player guide. I'm really proud of the work that's gone into that, and it will be finished. But when the patch notes were released, obviously that project kind of took a backseat to reworking ColdDoT pretty much from scratch. And that's really what I've been doing nonstop for the last few weeks. That's why there's been no new YouTube videos. I wanted to wait until I was fully happy with the build before I released any videos or updated the guide. And now I'm extremely happy to confirm that ColdDoT is really strong in 3.15, just as it has been in previous leagues. So let's take a quick look at the new POBs. And I did say, yes, POBs plural, because the first thing to notice, they've been separated. There's two different POBs now. One is kind of a trade and low life version, and the other one is built specifically toward SSF and Chaos Inoculation. So if we look at the skill trees, the first 11 trees, which is your Act 1 through Act 10, and then kind of your level 80 life, basically early mapping trees, they are identical. There's no change at all, just like they have been in the previous leagues. I've done a custom leveling process. These passives locations have changed, but between the two POBs, these are identical up until this point. The low life one has another few trees in it, including spending some time in CI mapping, which a lot of people will do, and we'll look real briefly at the CI one as well. Now, as far as the focus goes, you may notice Zealot's Oath is gone, and Wicked Ward, once we get into kind of our energy shield thing, is back. There is no more regen focus. We're back to Wicked Ward, and the reason is we've lost a ton of aura effect. That's happened both from GGG's perspective, and it's become harder to get. So we're back to Wicked Ward, and then for our constant sustain, using the Brush with Death cluster jewels here with Brush with Death and Vile Reinvigoration. So pretty simple, but we've gone kind of back to where we were focusing on in Ritual League in 3.13. The notes section of both POBs has been updated with colors, which is really nice. The item sets in both POBs have dividers. They're basically just items that don't exist. So don't get confused if you look in here and you see a bunch of jewels like that. That's what these are. These are basically just items that don't really exist, but they're separated out so they're a lot easier to grasp and kind of understand where we're coming from with the item sets. And both POBs have both a kind of basic item set, which I renamed here just to remind people that we don't res cap and attribute cap fake gear in a POB. But yeah, they have a kind of a high cost setup and a normal setup. And in the CI SSF version, it's more like starting mapping gear versus, late league self-crafted gear type setup. So the items are kind of laid out in a little bit more easy to understand way than they have been in the past. The skills. One of the kind of casualties of the nerfs in 3.15 is that the skills have a lot less flexible options. Used to be I could list, an open slot and give you kind of 7 or 8 different choices. That is happening a lot less now. What is happening that's nice is the option between a straight up 6-link in your body armor or going to the 2 5-link setup. The advantage of this has always been like a little bit more DPS and kind of a thing that only a few people did, but now it's very clearly a much higher DPS way to play the build. So if you don't mind having an extra button, this can actually lead to significantly higher damage overall, whereas the 6-link is more of a defensive choice, which I'll explain in a second, as well as kind of just a more of a quality of life thing. The defensive choice that I was mentioning was if you don't have to have your Vortex on left click because of having extra damage skills, that does leave you the chance to put a guard skill back in there, so you can use Steel Skin or Immortal Call for that guard skill. Vol Cold Snap is the same as always. The curses are the same. Most of them are similar, except for our wand and just a little bit of aura league-specific things. So in the wand, we're now running Sigil of Power. This is basically a boss-only ability that we put down to get some less damage taken from bosses and help us with a little bit more survivability. And then, like I said, I've kind of got these all laid out with instructions in the labels. But if you're going to have Vortex on your 6-link, that lets you put Steel Skin on your left mouse. Otherwise, with both versions of the build, if you're not going to run a guard skill, you'll be running Tempest Shield instead. You may notice because we don't run Vitality anymore, that did free up some mana, and you basically have in the low light version 2 options. You can either run Flesh and Stone, which is really, really nice. You can also, I don't know why I specifically called that out, because this is also really nice. If you get Aspect of the Spider, you can run that with Defiance Banner as long as you have the mana regen for it, and that's also really nice. A couple of league-specific things. I already mentioned one, which is basically the adaptation of the 2 5-links in the body armor, but the other thing that's nice is you can get around the culling remnant ability. And what I mean by that, if you're not familiar, is as low life, one of the remnants in the expedition encounters says that monsters basically kill you on hit if you have less than 20% of your life. For a lot of Vortex players, that's the case almost all of the time. We're typically running around with anywhere from 10 to 18% unreserved. So to counter that, for this league specifically, you can move Zealotry, which is a 50% reservation aura, into your non-Prism Guardian spot, and then you can sub your Discipline into the Prism Guardian, because Discipline is a 35% aura that does generally allow you to pop out the other side of that Remnant threshold and sit at 22 or 23%. So that works really nice for the low light version. And then I do just want to point out, like I said, in the CI version, there's obviously some trimmed down options because we don't have the low life shield, but it's similar. You still have Stormbrand curses. You do, in this one, we're going to drop Sigil of Power into our shield, and that leaves us room for an increased duration that's going to benefit both, actually both debuffs on Frostbomb, as Tempest Shield, and then whether you use Immortal Call or Tempest Shield, you'll get a benefit from increased duration there. And then finally, like I said, Defiance Banner, it's been a really nice update, and Sigil of Power is as well. These are both kind of really nice defensive abilities to have. And I just want to make a minor note on Keybinds, because I've been being asked about this a lot. While you are mapping, when your damage reaches high enough levels, the idea behind a lot of the Keybinds is these are optional things or things that help specifically with single target. So while you're mapping, for instance, when I'm mapping, I literally only need to click Vortex, the Cold Snaps, and a movement skill. I can get through every enemy in the game up through tier 16s with just those skills. When it comes to bosses, when it comes to juiced up rares, sometimes you're talking things like Soul Eater or extra health rares, Stormbrand can help a lot because that does apply Elemental Equilibrium in a positive way, and it applies the curses. But basically your Stormbrand, your Frostbomb, your alternate skill like Sigil of Power or Tempest Shield, and typically Vol Discipline, those only need to ever be pressed while you are focusing on single target. So that's really the quick summary of Cold Dot in 3.15. The POBs are in the description. They're in the guide. They're pretty much everywhere in the Discord for you to take a look at. But the build has come out the other end of the nerfs really strong, and I'm really proud of where it is. So with that being said, I just want to remind you of 2 things coming up that are kind of exciting. First is I will be on the Faded Connections podcast this week. It's actually, it's actually recording in about 10 hours, so I'm going to need some sleep beforehand. But it'll be myself, it'll be Catmaster as usual, Balor Mage, and 10K. And we'll be talking about 3.15, about balance, about the Expedition League in particular. That's why I've kind of left a lot of my thoughts out of this video, because we'll be discussing them on the podcast, so make sure that you check it out. And then finally, I would really like for anyone who wants to join me on Sunday. I'm going to be starting the stream a little bit early, which for me means probably about 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I am going to be starting in the league I intended to start in, which is Solo Self-Found. I did start in Trade League because I wanted to make sure I could get all this gear quickly and put it together and kind of give people both a guide, work as proof that, we can still take on in-game content, all that. And now I'm very satisfied, as I thought I would be, that the build is very, very viable and strong. So I'm going to be re-rolling in SSF starting Sunday. I'll be starting the stream out by actually taking on Cirrus at Awakener 8 as kind of a cap on our trade league journey, if you will. And I'll be starting with a cold dot character in SSF. We'll obviously be seeing where the gear takes us and what we can get done in SSF over the coming weeks. But I'm really excited about it, and I hope you will join me for that. But with that being said, that's it. That's our Cold Dot 315 update. I'm working furiously on updating the actual Cold Dot for Everyone guide. I know that it is in need of an update, and because of all the changes, I haven't been able to do that until we were confident with kind of a final version of the build. So look for that in the coming week or two for the guide to be updated. I really appreciate all your time and you watching. I'll see you guys in Faded Connections and on stream. I've been Shaq Central. I'll catch you in the next one.